Hello, rare daytime appearance of a movie review. Two Against the World is a 1932 film starring Constant Bennett and Neil and God, make sure I get his name right here. Neil Hamilton, who is probably best known to semi-modern audiences as playing a Commissioner Gordon on the 1960s Batman TV show. So definitely an early thing of him as kind of the dashing, sort of semi-dashing male lead. He plays kind of a serious lawyer to Constant Bennett's kind of happy-go-lucky, slightly spoiled, slightly kind of just not particularly concentrating on the serious things of life, kind of socialite. This is all a story where Constant Bennett is does her best to protect her brother from murder charges because he kills another man. Actually, I think he kills the other man because he thinks that the other man was actually fooling around with Constant Bennett, using her, potentially blackmailing her because of her brother's gambling debts. He's definitely a rogue, a scoundrel, as the harsh terms of the day. Actually, it turns out that no, he was actually fooling around with her brother's wife. I believe at this point, yeah, it's a wife, and yes, wife, because there are children involved. This is a pre-code movie, which you can kind of tell with that kind of semi lurid but fairly kind of accepting plot of like, yeah, she was the sister-in-law was fooling around with another man, but she isn't like punished for it. She feels guilty and stuff like that. But and they never actually kind of clue the brother in on that. This is actually based on an actual a Philadelphia society murder of Eddie Allen, who killed Francis Donaldson III in a quote honor killing, which was apparently in all the tabloid papers. It was a big scandal at the time, and indeed, this movie, well, highly fictionalized, is definitely has all the kind of the got the newspapers there. It's like, we want a great story. We don't care who we hurt getting that story, and this rotten press. Um, Neil Hamilton is a lawyer who Constant Bennett gets to know, who actually he comes because the family's horrible business has killed somebody, and they're like, we can win the case, so screw it. And Constant Bennett is so clueless; she's playing tic-tac-toe with the brother, and just ignores the whole deciding anyways. But yeah, they're basically fucking over a family of like, I think there's like 5 children and a wife who are left behind by this dead worker. And it's just like, yeah, who cares? Constant Bennett, to her credit, when she finds out about this, does actually like, okay, look, here's the $100. You'll get $100 a week until the case gets settled, because there's asshole lawyers who are basically like, yeah, there's Hamilton's character says to this widow, they're super rich. They'll just drag it out forever and ever and just bleed you dry. But Constant is going to actually basically fund that and make sure that they're also not starving to death, because that's basically what straits they're in. They're starving to death at this point. So he happens to be he's kind of connected with the family, and they have a romance. And there's this whole thing about him taking her out to kind of I was like, oh, would you like to go out for dinner and music? And she's like, sure. So he takes them to what looks like it's probably kind of a rundown kind of lawyer newspaper diner, and they order the beans. They have beans, and he goes over to the jukebox and he puts on some music. So they have that kind of thing. Constant Bennett, definitely, this is she's being kind of light and vivacious and getting to wear wonderful frocks. By the end of this thing, she's got one of those big puffy fur stoles, and she's got the kind of the flapper hat. It's just like, she looks gorgeous. She looks gorgeous in it, and she's just a super winning personality. She is not like the level of a Jean Arthur, but she's consistently just always like a delightful kind of light presence with kind of humanity in her. She cares about her brother. She basically, when all this stuff comes to light, she happens to be on the scene. She figures out how to kind of cover it up. when things start coming out, when her father tries to kind of suppress everything, they go to the district attorney and says like, you're going to drop the case, and it's like there's all this kind of corruption implied of like how the rich can cover things up. It's definitely it's a light frothy comedy kind of that, but there's also just like there's been a murder, we're going to cover up the murder, all this sort of stuff that goes throughout it. They've definitely they definitely went with a Hollywood version because it is this romance between Constant Bennett and Neil Hamilton, which, to be honest, that's the thing that's probably the most engaging about it. So I'm not angry that this is obviously lightly tap dancing over the actual circumstances of the movie. You know, as it goes, a fun movie. It's interesting that, like, you know, it's Hollywood was interested in scandal, in kind of things happening there. It's striking how we're gonna get into post-code movies and how things are gonna tighten, and how much so much of the messiness of life will get concealed in the Hollywood movies going forward. That there's a lot more code, a lot more elusive, which, you know, the great artists figure out ways around it, but other ones, it's just like it planes everything off into a very smooth veneer that makes you think, which is why conservatives say that this is the good old days. Because it was the good old days because they weren't allowed to talk about what was actually going on. And these pre-code movies that I'm getting to watch are actually quite quite refreshing in just very frankness of people are fucking around, there's all this corruption, bad people get away with stuff, people have sex, people are fucking sexy, you know, all that sort of stuff. And Constant Bennett is TCM is running this series had run the series of like a bunch of her movies, so it's like, oh, let's get on the train and just watch and watch these, and it's just sinking me into this period of time in Hollywood movies, which I'm really enjoying. All right, hi, I'm in the light for this one, but usually I'll be in the dark. More videos later.